Hola y bienvenidos. Tenemos una clase rápida para el episodio de hoy. Vamos a repasar lo que hablamos en el episodio anterior. We've got a quick class for today. We're going to go over what we talked about in the previous episode, what we really think about la SanSe. We're going to talk about what we went over in the episode, how la SanSe began. We're going to take a look at la SanSe hoy en día. Hoy en día is like saying nowadays, currently. And then we're going to talk about some PR vocab, some of it being just Spanish vocab in general, but of course with the sazón de Puerto Rico. This is precisely what I read in Spanish in the episode to give you guys the history of how SanSe first began. Originally organized by this father, Juan Manuel Madrazo, father being, the priest, not someone's dad, of San Jose Church in the 50s. The purpose was to commemorate San Sebastian, also to raise money to repair the church. This is, again, what we went over in Spanish in the episode. He was then transferred out of San Juan, and the festival stopped being organized at that point. It was picked back up in the 1970s by historian and anthropologist Ricardo Alegría. We mentioned him in the episode, that he proposed to Rafael Vallardes de Brito, a resident of San Sebastian Street, to revive the tradition. They organized that festival again to collect money for an elementary school directed by the Sisters of Charity. Again, this is what we went over in the episode. Now you hear it in English. So if you go back and listen to the episode again in Spanish, you have a little bit more orientation to that part of the history. Okay, now you can just try to catch the words in Spanish. Here is a picture from this past weekend. All right, so got a little bit of how it started and how it's going. So we've confirmed that Bad Bunny attended La SanSe this year. So we're going to take a look at that post. If you like following celebrity gossip, especially reggaetoneros, etc., follow La Mega PR on Instagram. Okay, let's take a look through some of this slide to get a little feel for what La SanSe is like these days. Here's the procession that still happens. Okay, we've got a little bit of hints about when his next album is coming out here with this post. And then we've got combined with his attendance in La SanSe. Another thing I wanted to go over, I talked about this being one of my favorite parts of La SanSe, son los cabezudos. Los cabezudos aquí. So I'm going to use this article to help. Alfredo and I had the question about whether these people, these cabezudos, are sometimes just representing a group of people, like representing los jíbaros, or if they're representing personas específicas, they're referring to specific people. And turns out they are many times representing somebody specific. So here I'm just going to share some quick examples. We've got Cabezuda Doña Fela aquí. Okay, so she was a mayor in San Juan for 22 years, right? We've got Ramon Rivero, who was known as Diplo. He was a actor and comedian. El General is with him there. Picturesque character that spent a lot of his time in Old San Juan during the 1970s. As Alfredo mentioned, they typically will represent una jíbara, los jíbaros, etc. So if you want to check out more about these historical figures that are being represented in the Cabezudos, Ricardo Alegría, right, one of the ones that helped make La SanSe come back. He's also one of the Cabezudos that's represented. Check out PuertoRicoIsmusic.org. Okay, that's where I'm pulling this information from. Those cabezudos, and you could take a deeper dive into the historical figures that are being represented with this very, very cool part of La SanSe, which is los cabezudos. We're going to go over just a few of the vocab words that came up in this episode. Alfredo mentioned that you'll have the experience of todo el mundo ahí apretado. Apretado, of course, would be how it was pronounced here, the dropping of the D. This is the word apretado. Apretado, of course, here it'll sound more like apretado, or feminine, which we'll review in a second, would sound more like apreta. You can have three potential translations for apretado. Let's look at tight, cramped, and busy. Here we're talking about everybody being cramped, everybody being tight, kind of squished in an area. Some other examples of apretado and those other translations that we see, tight, cramped, and busy. You can use this word to ask if somebody's busy, if they're tight on time. Estás apretada, if you were talking to a woman, estás apretada de tiempo. Estás apretada de tiempo. Are you tight on time? Estás apretado de tiempo. For a man, estás apretado de tiempo. Are you tight on time? Okay. You can say that something's on really tight, like la tapa. the top of something, the cap, right? La tapa está bien apretada. The top is on really tight. Thinking about a jar, etc. So physically, if something's tight, you can use apretado. We can talk about it in the sense of time, which we do in English as well. Are you tight on time? Even though, of course, you can think of this as busy, but we really use the word tight in that situation. And then when you're thinking of people, think about squished or cramped. Those would be your three examples of really good uses of the adjective apretado. On the other hand, we have the word that I learned in the episode as well, dispersado. Dispersado, dispersa. Of course, it's an adjective, so it can exist as masculine, feminine, plural, or singular. This means dispersed. This came up in the episode. This had also come up in a live class that I did on my platform where we play Spot the Differences. So I put up 2 images. This is a great game for people that are not super beginners, but are wanting to start practicing in short phrases. They're not intermediate or advanced enough to do conversation practice, but they want to start being able to use their Spanish speaking wise. So in Spot the Differences, we'll put up 2 images like the bar game, and the students have to unmute themselves and say, yo veo una, I see una, because we're talking about una diferencia. And then they'll explain the differences of the 2 pictures. So in one of the pictures, there was a handle on a door, and the other there was not. And the question got brought up because I'm attracting more and more people that have a connection to Puerto Rico. One of the students who has Puerto Rican heritage asked about handle in Puerto Rico. I had this question when I first came here and never really clarified the way to say handle. Mi gente. If I've been here 4 years and this hasn't come up, it's because it's used in English. And that was what we confirmed. Alfredo uses handle, el handle. That's what I've typically, I think, used in these past 4 years of being here. But the word mango is also used in Puerto Rico for handle. You might hear handle, you might hear el mango. Don't say mango. Mango is the fruit, right? Change the emphasis, an accent over the O. Mango. Mango, mango. Mango, mango. It's the same as the difference of, don't complain, we do this in English too with produce versus produce. Progress versus progress. Address versus address. All of the ones that have emphasis on the first syllable, produce, address, progress, are nouns. I'm making progress. Let me get your address. I got to buy some produce. All the ones that have the emphasis on the second syllable are verbs. Yeah, this job is all about producing, produce. Verb. He addressed the crowd. To address a crowd. Verb. And what was the other example I gave? Progress. I want to know how to progress in this process. Okay? And English doesn't even give you an accent mark for people that are learning the language to be able to tell whether they're supposed to pronounce it like produce or produce. You're supposed to know in context, okay? So don't complain. At least you get an accent mark in Spanish. Mango is the fruit. Mango is a handle. Or you can just say handle. Handle. If you want to go back to that part, we went back and forth about it. Alfredo has the legit Puerto Rican pronunciation of handle. Sometimes my Spanish pronunciation of English words isn't the best because, my native language. Alfredo mentioned la tarima principal. I wanted to show this map to take a look at the legend. La tarima is the stage. We're going to look at both of these words, okay, because they're both really good. Tarima for stage and principal being main. Let's look at that in a couple other examples. El personaje principal is how you say the main character. You don't use the word carácter. Carácter is to refer to somebody's carácter, and it might even refer to specifically that they've got like a strong sort of character, a little bit rough. El personaje principal, the main character. Las puertas principales, the main doors. Okay, principal means main. Personaje means character. Tarima means stage. Y'all should know puertas, doors. I told you it was going to be a quick one today. Thank you. If you don't follow me on social media and you haven't seen my latest post, I have officially changed my handle to Spanish with Carrie. Okay, we've got branding. Here we are. You can find me on TikTok as Spanish with Carrie. We're going to get that blue check mark so that these scammers that are using my content to try to take advantage of people no longer have the power to do so. Very excited about my cute little branding. Find me as Spanish with Carrie on all of the platforms. And thanks so much, as always, for your support.